Oh yeah. I guess
Already, I
so.
have some horrible news.
Oh no, what happened? What happened?
Our special guest, our big special guest, isn't going to close out the show for us.
Oh no, really? What happened?
Yeah. Well, I was texting with Shaun, and he said that he heard that Ashley was going to do a big expose PowerPoint on him.
Mm-hmm.
So sadly, Shaun King was going to be our special guest on this show.
Oh
To
my
close it out,
gosh.
and
I didn't even
Shaun is
realize there
not
was a
going to
conflict.
Shaun's not going to do it. Yeah.
Is he,
I
is there
yeah.
something going on with him? Is he like I mean,
I
I'm
don't
sure he's
know.
fighting for social
He
justice and being completely honest with everyone, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've never been like friends, but he texts me a lot.
Yeah.
And he's definitely been trying to like talk a lot. So I thought something might be going on.
Okay.
But I'm not like really invested. I'm not like really invested in that friendship, you know.
Um,
So
I hear
but
you.
it's a bummer
Well,
he won't be on.
it's a bummer we won't be on, but maybe we'll have some other time. But in the meantime, I
Yeah,
guess we'll just see what the beef is
I mean,
about.
yeah, I think he's right. I think I can't imagine that I would that something could come to light that would make is not cool.
Well, I guess we'll just have to forget about it and bring on our next guest, who is a good friend of mine, a very funny friend of mine. I met her not recently, but we, I want to retweet every single one of her tweets because it's just that good. And I
Incredible
had to have her
creator.
on the show. So please welcome. Apologies again to Shaun King. Please welcome Ashley Ray.
Hey everybody. Oh my gosh. I knew I would scare Shaun King away because he's not ready. He's not ready for this. Because Shaun King is a liar sometimes.
Oh,
I assume this is working and everyone can see and hear
it
what
is
I'm
working.
doing. Great. We're going to go through Shaun King's entire history, and I'm going to tell you why you need to stop sharing him. Mostly white people, because Black people already know this. The biggest lesson to take away is that none of this is new information. Most of it spans the last 9 years. Please stop sharing the words of Talcum X, who is a bitch, Hewlett P. Newton, who is a bitch, and Thurgood Marshall, who's a bitch. Why is Shaun King a liar sometimes? I just want to start with our agenda at the top of this Zoom meeting. First off, he's not always a liar. He does do some good things, and I'm going to give him credit where credit is due. There have been some false lies about him. Is he really Black? We're going to get into it. The GoFundMes he shares, are they legit? They are. I'll explain. I'll also talk about the times he was very wrong and why you should unfollow him and why it's dangerous for a guy with a platform this big to say things that are so wrong and not fact-checked, and why it's not worth it for you to follow him. And if you still aren't convinced, I've made a list of my favorite personal Shaun King scams. And we're going to go through all of them. And this isn't even all of them. These are just my favorites. By the end, I think you're going to have a favorite too. How did this all start? Well, on Instagram, I posted this story. I was really tired of my white friends posting Shaun King information. By this point, I thought everyone in the world knew that Shaun King was a scammer. There was a Daily Beast article that just came out that talked about how he had misused funds for the North Star. There was a piece that came out on We Are Your Voice that talked about how so many Black folks, and especially Black women, have come forward to say, hey, this dude has lots of problems. These posts ended up going viral on Instagram, which has never happened for me before, but it's like my most liked post on Instagram ever. And it turns out that going viral in an Instagram is like going viral in a Joanne Fabrics. Like all of a sudden, every white woman in the world was in my DMs, and they weren't trying to check in on me. They didn't want to know how I was doing. They just wanted to know, why do you want to hurt my dear Shaun King? This is their biggest thing. They came to me, they were like, what are you talking about? This is shocking. White people love Shaun King. Maybe it's because he looks like MLK in whiteface. I don't know, but they love him. They came to me, they said, this is just drama. He does so much. You need to focus on the action. You're just helping conservatives who already hate him. Why would you help them? He does good stuff. I just wanted to give some examples of the messages, people saying, shame on you for saying that, you know, Shaun King couldn't manage a piggy bank, which he can't. They sent me podcasts that he did from a year ago that don't even talk about his recent financial fumblings. They asked me, are you aware that like he knows people and I use him for information? And my personal favorite was this woman who said, your post on Shaun King, where is the screenshot or picture of the so many articles? What proof do you have? Is this a feeling? Amanda Seales hasn't said this. Because I assume this woman only knows two Black people, Shaun King and Amanda Seales. And I just broke her reality. She warned me that I should take it down to minimize the hell my karma will bring.
Oh God.
But here's the thing, I don't want to hurt Shaun King. I just think what he does is really dangerous for this movement. And I think he hurts a lot of people in this movement. And a lot of times that's not seen. I'm even going to defend Shaun King a little bit, just a as little as I can. And as I have to for this fellow Black man. But here's the biggest takeaway that I think you're going to get from this. You don't need Shaun King. You can be your own Shaun King. See, this movement can go on without Shaun King, but the only thing that's going to go on for Shaun King, if you keep supporting him and his platform, is his ego. So let it go, and I'm going to tell you why. Let's get into the bullshit drama. Is Shaun King even Black? For most people, this was the first introduction to any sort of controversy with Shaun King they ever came across. Back in 2015, when he was getting hot off of Ferguson, he was building his platform, conservatives on racist sites like Breitbart were like, well, we got to take this guy down. And so they started just doing really unfair attacks on his Blackness. It reached a point where even Don Lemon and Vox investigated, and there was an entire article that was like the Shaun King controversy explained. So let's just get into it. Is Shaun King Black? Yeah, sure. Yeah, like, okay, sure. Because he went on his website and he put his whole mama's business on the internet. Personally, I would never put my mama's business on the internet. I think that's a very white guy move. But Shaun King went ahead and told everybody that his mom had multiple affairs. She was young. She made mistakes. Him and all of his siblings had different parents. And when he was a teenager, he found out that actually his dad was a Black man. I say that he found out when he was a teenager, his dad was a Black man. So is Shaun King Black? Yeah, because, you know, we live in this country where we had this racist system created by white people where you guys were like, one drop, you're Black. So I don't think it's fair for white people to say he's not Black. You guys don't get to decide that now. You don't get to say it anymore. You don't get to decide. You know, it's not up to you. It's up to Black people, really. It's only a conversation I'm going to have with Black people. To white people, Shaun King is Black, okay? Shaun King's Black to you guys, okay? But why was it even a question? Well, he has two white parents on his birth certificate. And again, those are the two white parents who raised him. So when you work with him and you engage with his text, you really do have to look at it from this lens and consider he is someone who did grow up with the assumption of white privilege. That's something you have to consider when you work with his work. And a lot of people don't want to consider that. When he was in high school, he said that he was harassed once for being a white guy who dated Black girls. So, I mean, okay. And then also there is a case of him being arrested as a teenager, being involved with the police, and he put white on his police record. At the very least, it is a guy who can pass as white and has the privilege of passing as white. And a lot of people don't want to engage with that when it comes to Shaun King. But it is still colorism, though. You have to ask yourself, why have white people chosen to make someone who has literally the most distinct drop of blackness, the figurehead for a black movement. Why are you so much more comfortable with someone who looks like Shaun King being a leader than someone who might be darker or someone who might have a more deeper relationship to black culture? That's something people have to ask. But for white people, yeah, he's black. I'm going to defend it. Okay. So then you're going to ask yourself, if he's black, why do I still have to do more research? You said I could just trust what black people have to say. And I just want to trust the first black man with the last name King who has a ton of followers, okay? Don't make it hard. It's so hard. Life is so hard right now, okay? I don't have the time to use Google. And I get it, because that's the allure of Shaun King. He makes activism seem so easy. All you got to do is follow him, and he'll show you all the things to donate to and to vote for and to like and to think. And it's just like a one-stop shop for your moral high grounds. You know, you just follow his feed. And sometimes he does share legit things. So a big question is, does he share legit GoFundMes then? Yes. But here's the other thing. He doesn't control those GoFundMes. The money doesn't go to him. The money just goes to the families. The money goes to bank accounts that are set up by whoever set up the GoFundMe, not Shaun King, okay? Shaun King likes to say because he shared the GoFundMe, he assisted in aiding that money. That's true, he has a huge platform. I'm sure that a lot of those GoFundMes would have had a hard time meeting their goal. But it's not exactly true for him to say he raised that money. On the other hand, he also does really legit phone bank actions. Phone banking is really, really important. But you don't need Shaun King to tell you who to call. Lots of people can tell you who to call. And I'm going to show you how to find those people. But really, you don't need Shaun King to tell you who to call. Because look at this. He's also sharing some of the shittiest information sometimes. And I know that we live in this like 24/7 Twitter news world where you got to be fast to update on whatever the fuck is going on. But when you're Shaun King and you have your platform where you can literally make or break votes for people, you need to be more careful. And instead, he's made 3 pretty big mistakes, and he's had to have his fucking ass schooled so many goddamn times. The first time, Rachel Maddow had to fucking school his ass. Rachel Maddow was like, hey, Shaun, I never said this. Shaun King said that Rachel reported on her show that multiple senior officials within the Democratic Party are interfering with the primaries to stop Bernie Sanders. And Rachel Maddow literally tweeted, I did not report any such thing. King never responded, never deleted his tweet, never addressed it ever again. Another time, Senator Brian Schatz, he tweeted something about Medicare for All. And Shaun replied with something like super sarcastic, like, if you like Medicare for All so much, why don't you support Bernie? And then Brian replied, I don't know why you are tweeting this like some sort of gotcha, but I am a co-sponsor on the bill. Which is kind of embarrassing when you consider Shaun King worked for Bernie Sanders and probably should have known that or thought about it before doing that. And then the most recent one, oh, by the way, these are all from this year. These are all from the past few months. The latest one just happened with Nancy Tung. She's a prosecutor in San Francisco. And Shaun King urgently tweeted on the 30th, San Francisco, we need your help. We gotta vote Nancy Tung out of office. She refuses to prosecute convicted cops of any criminal charges. Sad thing though, Nancy Tung, one of the few women of color who's a prosecutor in San Francisco, she's also one of a handful of prosecutors who actually has convicted cops. So that, like, that's not, oh no, don't know. He just told 1 million people to get her out of office. And then afterwards, when a bunch of people pointed out he was wrong and that she actually was a good person for him to support, he never corrected it or deleted anything. So, you know, that's on the lower end of it. That's like, okay, maybe he got some things wrong. Let's turn it up a notch to Jasmine Barnes. She was a 6-year-old girl who got shot in Houston. And when this happened, Shaun King immediately was like, I will find who did this. I'm going to Houston, because Shaun King is Black people's police now. So that's what he does. So he goes there. He's like, I'm going to find this person. I'm offering a reward. He starts taking in tips. And he also tweeted about how he was personally going through the tips to decide what was good and what was trash, because also he is a private investigator now, I guess. So he's passing on that information to the cops and also tweeting it to his many followers. In one of those tweets, he posts a picture of a supposed suspect and their name, Robert Cantrell. Within just minutes, his followers are attacking this guy and his family on social media. They're posting his mugshot. They had people threatening to kill them. And then it came out that this guy actually wasn't a suspect at all. And Shaun King just deleted his tweets, never apologized, and again, never addressed the fact that he put this family in a lot of danger. On the other side of it, why does Shaun King have so much influence with cops? He's not a cop, or maybe he's a cop, maybe I don't know, but it's weird that the Houston police were just like, yeah, welcome, Shaun King. Thanks for all your tips. And in all of that, a lot of people think that Shaun King overlooked a lot of important information and might have gotten the wrong people arrested. Because if he can get the wrong people suspected, maybe we shouldn't take tips from a guy who just offered people money on Twitter for tips. Why are we listening to Shaun King for this? For Jasmine Barnes, in the end, it came out that 2 Black men were suspected of shooting her. They were arrested. A lot of people believe that Shaun King collaborated with the police to set these 2 Black men up. And if you look at the tweets, it's kind of weird. One day Shaun King was like, definitely a white guy did this. 4 people said a white guy did this. And then one day he tweets, when Jasmine Barnes was killed, I pledged to find who killed her. We did that. The men who were arrested shot her. That I know. But I've studied this case for nearly 60 hours. Again, Shaun King, who has no investigative license, studied this case. So that's like if I said I studied it. That's who gives a shit, Shaun King. But something's not right. Key details are missing in the story. I no longer trust the timeline. Oh no, you guys, Shaun King doesn't trust the timeline. Oh, no, well, if Shaun King doesn't trust it, then I guess the Houston police have to listen. So based on that, they arrest these 2 Black guys. One person on Facebook provided another view of this. I took this person's name off because Shaun King fans are crazy. But she pointed out that Shaun King said one person convinced him of this to go against 4 other people's eyewitness testimony. He listened to one person and convinced all the police that this one person was right and these other 4 people were wrong. And for some reason, the cops were like, well, we gotta trust fucking Shaun fucking King. And when you look into it, it is a little weird that they got a confession so quickly and that the police stopped investigating pretty much right after that. Did Jasmine Barnes get justice? We'll never know. But Shaun King, I guess, is besties with the Houston police. So are his mistakes really worth it just because it makes you feel better? Just because it makes you feel like an activist? Just because it makes you feel good that you can share the post in your Instagram story? Really? Because what if I told you there are, in fact, other Black people you could follow on social media? And big surprise, that's actually all Shaun King does. All he does is go to cities, follow local people, and then he just aggregates their information to make it easier for white people. It's that simple. That's all he does, and you can do it too. And on the other hand, you get to support local organizations. How do you do it? Here's how I did it. I just moved to LA about a year ago. I started with my local Black Lives Matter chapter. From there, I went to my local DSA chapter. From there, I started asking people in the group, hey, I live in this neighborhood. What are some groups I should know? I found Streetwatch LA and some other groups. And then you start following them on Twitter and they'll start retweeting people. And there you go. It's really that simple. And that's how you can take direct action. But I know you're still like, that's hard. That's like, wait, I don't care if I have to triple check everything Shaun King posts, okay? I don't care if Shaun King couldn't handle a high school fundraiser, okay? Because the idea of following more than 2 Black people on social media outside of Amanda Seales and Shaun King is just too hard for me to comprehend. I can't clutter my feed, okay? Maybe you just like his personality or something. I don't know why you would love Shaun King that much, but look at who else is probably clogging your feed. Like, what, you're taking up space with like the white girl you worked at Old Navy for like one summer who like constantly posts her mixed child with all lives matter captions. Like the white girl from college who's just like posting her mission trips. Like, come on. You don't need those black boxes on your feed. You can unfollow, you can reorg, you can remanage to fit these other voices in with, I'm sure, the crush you had in 8th grade who you still follow. You can do it. But you guys, we haven't even gotten to the scams yet.
Oh boy.
Because when we talk about, this is just his misinformation. We've only talked about how it's bad to follow him. Now I'm going to tell you why it's bad to give him money. I am probably running a light right now, but like, come on. I'm going to get into all of these because when we talk about Shaun King scams, we don't mean the GoFundMe he promotes. Every time Shaun King gets called out for scamming people for fucking money, he says, if you look at the GoFundMe, the family got all the money. Nobody was questioning the GoFundMe, Shaun King. We are questioning Hope Mob, Flip the Senate, Life Goals University, and my favorite, the Tell the Mountain to Move campaign. That's what we're questioning. Those are all direct efforts that were led by Shaun King, where he raised money and then he moved those funds to other groups and didn't answer the questions or account for the funds. And most people who follow him now don't know about this stuff. And most of it dates back to 2011, 2016, last year. So let's go. Let's start with Hope Mob. Hope Mob was his 2013 scam. What he said he was going to do was raise millions of dollars for families in need. All you had to do was donate to Shaun King, tell him your need, he would send you the money, and that's it. A lot of people who tried to get money from Hope Mob were told that their needs weren't high needs. Like someone came and said, hey, I need a laptop. He was like, nobody's going to give you money for a laptop, kid, get out of here. But mostly what's important is that he never reported the money that came in from Hope Mob, and then tried to say that they only raised $160K over 3 years. But then people pointed out, he said that he sent emails saying they raised millions. But the only form he's ever produced is from 2013 and has never shown anything about 2014 funds. There's the Reunited Immigrant Parent with Their Child campaign, which was a really successful campaign on Facebook, one of the most to raise any money on Facebook ever. It raised $25 million. It was started by Charlotte Wilner and Dave Wilner. Shaun King shared it on his social channels. He shared it. That's all he did. And then he tried to claim a lot of the money that were raised through his Facebook share as his own donations, even though all he did was share a link. It was sketchy. Let's talk about Flip the Senate. This one is a classic Shaun King game plan. So Flip the Senate, he promised the world that this organization would reclaim the Senate in all 50 states in 2020. Then people were like, only 34 of the 100 seats are up for re-election in 2020, right? And he was like, shit, yeah, no, I know things. He like backtracked. He was like, yeah. And then people were like, hey, also, by the way, you probably shouldn't start an organization where you just are like an umbrella and you just raise money for a bunch of politicians. You should encourage people to give directly to politicians because that's duh. And so then after that, he was like, oh, you know what? Actually, Flip the Senate is not going to raise money. We're just going to connect people who have money with politicians and we'll direct you. And that's what he said he was going to do. But then in emails, he still asked people for direct donations. So I think he's just saying that. These two are my favorite because they're the most blatantly scammy. And I feel like when a lot of people hear these, they're like, wait, that same Shaun King did this? So Life Goals University was Shaun King's online school where he was going to change your life in 100 days. You paid him $50 a month and you worked through your goals with him. And it was supposed to be like, we make a list of goals. Shaun King emails you back and forth. You work together. And by the end, you've completed things with Shaun King. Fuck yeah. In the end, what happened is that he ended up sending 3 emails, some newsletters, and then just stopped reaching out. Everyone who signed up was also supposed to get a book. None of those people got books. And what's really funny is that all of the comments and reviews are still on the page from 5 to 7 years ago, where people are just like, still waiting on my book. Yeah, no response to my emails. This is really frustrating. Still waiting to hear back from Shaun on my 100 days.
Wow.
Most of the people who sent him money from that never got refunds. Their money was just repurposed for Shaun's next project. That's what he does. He'll take the money and then say, hey, that didn't work out. You know, I realized I couldn't do 100 days. So instead, I moved your money to Flip the Senate, my newest work. But that's not what people gave their money for. That's weird. So the next one, Tell the Mountain to Move campaign. So a long time ago, Shaun King actually got his start as the head of a pastor of a church. And then one day he told his church, and we'll get to the church, don't worry, we're getting to the fucking church. But he told his church, hey, you guys fucking hate me, and I'm gonna go climb 7 mountains. 7 mountains, 7 continents, great causes, one man. 7 fucking mountains. He raised $25,000 to climb these mountains. He went to, and this is also in his book, which is there, you can see, he went to training camp. He was there for 4 brutal days, and then he quit. He did not climb any mountain. He quit 4 days in. And then when people were like, hey, bro, if you're not going to do it, do we get our money back? He all of a sudden on his website was like, hey, actually, this campaign was just practice. This money is for a water pump in Haiti, not for me to climb 7 mountains. And he did that on his website. Everybody was like, dude, it literally says at the top, pray, wish Shaun well, 7 mountains, 7 continents, the climber. And as you can see, it's like, no, the campaign was just practice. Again, nobody ever knows what happened to that money. He's never talked about it. This was back in 2011. Oh, then there's North Star, his current journalistic adventure. He does articles. He often says, you guys can trust me. The North Star is running wonderfully because it's my chief operating officer, my operations manager, make sure everything is legit. FYI, that is his wife. His wife is his operations manager. She gets paid through his property. So those donations, they only report on his income. They don't report on his wife's, even though she worked. Okay, that's okay, whatever though. There's the neo-Nazi identification fund he started. He said that he was going to start a fund so that he could hire private investigators to personally find neo-Nazis and give donations for positive identification. He did a U-Caring, raised a ton of money. And as far as I know, no one has ever used a neo-Nazi identification app. Doesn't exist, never happened. And then the Courageous Church, his Atlanta mega church scam. This was one of his first, and there's a really good piece, Meet Shaun King, Serial Entrepreneur for Jesus, which actually is like a positive piece about him. Like it thinks it's a positive piece about him, but you read it and it's literally just like, Shaun King realized no one could do what he wanted because it was dumb, but he loves Jesus so much that his heart is so pure, he just didn't realize it was dumb. But he took over this church, had 600 members, and he decided that the best way to have church instead of every Sunday is once a month, and then to have 3 protests every month. So instead of meeting every Sunday, the church would have like 3 pillar meetings around certain topics, and then they would all meet as a church once a month. Because, you know, people don't join church for that whole community thing. They join it to hang out once a month. Obviously, after a while, everyone in the church was like, this fucking sucks, dude. Can we just go back to having church every Sunday? And he was like, no, actually, my wife and I are just going to leave the church by and disband it. A lot of people think he was just too busy realizing he could raise money off of Black Lives Matter stuff and being in Ferguson to lead his church and didn't want to be there every Sunday. But hey, there's various accounts. Woke folks. Another one that's very similar to Flip the Senate. This one kind of started out similar to the North Star. He said he wanted to start a email and Facebook community to share information and spread news. He took a ton of people's information, a ton of donations to start this. It never happened. And now if you try to go to that site or look anything up, it just takes you to the North Star. So it's another thing where people gave money for one thing, it never happened. That money got moved to something else. Injustice boycott, same thing. He said in 2016 he was going to raise money to coordinate efforts so he could boycott cities and arrange buses and organize people who wanted to protest in different cities. And 80,000 people, according to him, joined that emailing list and donated. And not a single initiative or boycott was ever sent out. And there's no mention of it on Shaun King's latest like financial accountings or anything. He never mentions where this money went, never mentions any sort of recognizable impact. Is basically just like, yeah, 80,000 people joined a mailing list and I don't know what happened after that. Okay, bye. We're almost done. We're almost done, you guys. I swear. I promise. We're almost there. And I'm telling you, there are still scams out there I didn't even touch on. The latest one's Justice Together back in 2015. This was a panel he was on with a lot of different minority workers. It was supposed to form after Ferguson as a coalition, and he was so shitty at it, they kicked him out, and the directors of it had to put out an entire letter explaining how Shaun King screwed them over. There's the mistakes that Shaun King made at North Launch. In the launch, he fired a ton of people, mostly Black women, after stealing their ideas and not paying them enough. And then most recently, the COVID-19 Help Squad, where Shaun King tried to do his usual routine of telling people we're the COVID-19 Help Squad, we're going to give families who need help and businesses who need help money. And then people said, you should not give Shaun King money. And he changed the story to, oh, we put people who have money in touch with people who need money, but we don't actually take any money. But in emails, he still asks for direct donations. I don't personally, I wouldn't do it. But maybe you're like, Ashley, you just went over 15 accidents that span the course of 9 years. I think you've been talking an hour maybe about accidents. What does Shaun have to say about all of this? Well, first of all, he loves to threaten to sue people. He forces a lot of his employees to sign NDAs, which, okay, that's always good. You always know if somebody's forcing people to sign NDAs, they don't have anything to hide. But anytime someone does speak out, he threatens to sue them. That's what happened to Clarissa Brooks, a queer Black woman. All she tweeted was that Shaun King had said he was raising funds for a woman who just got out of prison. And then Shaun King deleted all the tweets. And when people said, hey, you said you were raising money for Centoya Brown, he was like, no, I didn't. I never said that. And they were like, no, you tweeted it. And he was like, no. And even though a lot of people at this point had questioned Shaun King, this is the only time he outwardly threatened legal action. And it was against a young Black female queer college student. And also, here's the funny part. He tagged this like 4-person legal team of like legal experts. There's the lawyer who represented Mike Brown's family. There's like some Harvard people. These are heavy fucking hitters. And like everyone was like, why are you like using these crazy professional people to go after this college student? And then all the lawyers were like, hey, FYI, he never actually filed anything with us. We just know him. Like he basically just name dropped his friends to like threaten someone and seem tough. Like all these lawyers were like, we are not like agreeing to any motion. He just like knows us and like asked about it, but we're not involved. Please don't. Because everybody was like, fuck you, Shaun King, for trying to fucking go after this girl. Also, he releases a lot of kind of bogus financial statements. A lot of his supporters say Shaun King has already addressed all of these claims. But like we've already said, they only focus on GoFundMe efforts or scams that people aren't asking about. They don't talk about woke folk or the Injustice Watch or the boycotts that never happened. They never address that. And a few people here have pointed that out. This doesn't talk about all the Hope Bot money from 2013. Yeah, this talks about the GoFundMe, but there are countless other scams he refuses to address. Multiple people have said these reports aren't verified enough. And on top of that, the people he had put this report together, the 7-person review panel, they were his friends. They were his friends and employees. He said that it was like too hard to find another group, a third party to do it. So he just had some friends that he like super trusted look at all of his stuff. Yeah, that's cool. So then what else does he say? He also likes to say, and this is what he said for the past 9 years, hey, people make mistakes. There are mistakes you make in the early movement. I got too excited. I took on too much. I had all the best advisors in the world, and they told me what I wanted to do wouldn't work. But I didn't listen to them, any of them. And yes, I wasted a lot of money. That's literally his excuse. Like, he just in this Daily Beast article said, when we launched the North Star, virtually every advisor I had insisted that we should not do written articles, podcasts, and video news at the same time, King wrote. I just knew we could do it. They were right. He couldn't do it. He wasted all the money. It just doesn't make sense that that's an excuse. If he has every advisor, why isn't he listening to them? And why are you giving money to a guy who doesn't listen to his advisors? That's dumb. Because these stories aren't new. All of this that I've shared with you, I just took from a million other sources. It's all out there and it just keeps resurfacing. And more Black women keep coming forward with issues of exploitation and plagiarism and his bad work ethic and how it impacted them. So, like, why not just follow these other women instead? Why are you trusting the Caroline Calloway of the Black Lives Matter movement? Because this is like a million Caroline and Nat articles, okay? I'm trying to put this in a way white people will understand. Caroline Calloway and Nat Beach. Is that not your people's thing? But this is like that. There's so many women saying it's about time we talk about his abusive nature with these organizations. I was afraid to talk about Shaun King, but now I'm afraid to. The Shaun King we're not talking about anymore. Where did all of the money go? It's been conversation for the past 5 to 6 years. And still, white people share his posts. So why not just follow these people instead and stop following Shaun King? There's no reason to follow him. There's no reason to give him money. In conclusion, fuck Shaun King. And also fuck D-Ray, but we're going to get into that at another time. That one is a little more complicated. And I feel like, I'm going to start here with white people before I take away all of your Black gods. So let's just start with fuck Shaun King. Give him an unfollow. I'm Ashley Ray. Thank you.
I gave Shaun King $10,000 yesterday for a summer camp for kids who survived coronavirus to teach them how to climb mountains. And I'm an idiot.
Grace, why'd you do that?
Fucking idiot.
Yeah, he's not going to climb that mountain.
God
Seven
damn.
mountains. 7 mountains.
I've climbed 7 mountains, not big ones. Ashley, that was incredible. That was so good. Thank you so much for being on the show and doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Please keep
thank you
doing
so
that
much.
forever.